So here's our third proof we're going to work on. So now we're going to look at a little bit different vocabulary that we hadn't used in a while, bisector. So let's do our givens first. So the first thing that I want to put is that PQ is congruent to PS. Let's put that first. That's easy enough. PQ is congruent to PS. Now, why am I putting that one first instead of that one? It doesn't matter. This one is not going to, I'm not going to be able to build on this one. Basically, I'm able to just mark those congruent because it's given. There's nothing else I can do with it, okay? So I'm going to put that first. Now, if I want to, I can put all the givens together, or I can put them in separate steps. Let's put them in separate steps. I'm going to go ahead and put the givens in separate steps because some of you kind of, I think it helps you when you have them separately because each one tells you something different. So PR bisects QS. That's basically the same thing as PQ is the bisector. Okay, and that's given. So again, you can make these one step or two steps. I'm just going to start separating them because like on the previous proofs, we can use each of them to tell us different information. So, all right, PR bisects QS. What does that mean? Well, if PR bisects QS, what does that mean it does to QS? It means it cuts it in half, right? It cuts it in half. So there's two different ways we can go with this, and I'm going to try to limit your steps. So what I'm going to go ahead and say is I'm going to say that QR is congruent to RS, and that's the definition of a bisector. I'm going to let you go ahead and say that, and we're going to mark it here. We're going to mark these two on our triangle. Because it bisects, I know those two are congruent. Some people will make you say R is the midpoint, then QR is equal to RS, and then QR is congruent to QRS. It just depends on who's doing it. I'm not going to make you do that for our purposes. So now I've established two pieces here. I can't tell anything else. I don't have any vertical angles, so I can't do anything with angles. However, I do have that shared property, which is PR, so I can use reflexive. I know that PR is going to be congruent to PR or RP. Doesn't matter how you write it. Really doesn't matter. I'm writing PR because if you look in the prove part, it's PR and PR. That's the sequence. And that's our reflexive property. That's our reflexive property of congruence. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 3 slashes there. And now look at my 3 triangles. I'm ready to close this up. I've got the 3 pieces necessary to prove. So now I can go ahead and say triangle PSR is congruent to triangle PQR. And this one is by the side-side congruence. I've proven that all 3 sides are congruent. So there you go. We've just proven those 2 triangles. Again, we've used the reflexive property. Bisector means it cuts it in half, so that was enough to tell me those were congruent. And here we go. We may get to a point where we have to write it's the midpoint first and the distances are equal, but right now I'm not concerned with that. My concern is that you can get from this information and explain to me how we can get to this information. And that is enough steps for me right now. So that is how we use side, side, side. One example.